Today, in our Spotlight series, I'm joined by Hamilton Lane Head of Technology Solutions, Griff Norville. With $903 billion in assets under management and supervision, Hamilton Lane has been providing private market investment solutions for over 3 decades. Thanks so much for joining me here today, Griff.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to see you. And, obviously a lot of our investors know Hamilton Lane well because of the investment management services that it provides. But you run technology solutions. So tell us what that is about and what is the key advantage that Hamilton Lane has when it comes to technology.
Yeah, well, what they might not know is how seriously we treat data and technology at Hamilton Lane. We make it a core part of our key values, core part of our DNA. We've built what I think is the biggest database in the industry. So it's over 56,000 funds and over 150,000 portfolio companies within those funds. We're collecting fund level cash flows within all the way down to the company level, operating metrics of these companies, and even sustainability KPIs to increase the transparency for our investors so they understand what they're invested in and how it's doing. And so our database today tracks over 60% of all private capital raised over the past 50 years. It's an incredibly powerful tool for us to help educate and inform our client base on the private markets.
Right, and so give us some examples of how you're doing that and what kind of data you're using and what kind of technology solutions are you providing to clients?
So one example would be on the pre-investment side. So for limited partners that are interested in what investment opportunities are out there, we're trying to open the transparency into those managers. So we see over 1,000 managers a year come through our door seeking capital. We represent over $40 billion that's put to work every year. And we get a lot of transparency into that GP's track record and the companies they've invested in and how they're doing. And we're giving our clients a technology, we call it Cobalt, that is giving them a side-by-side view of our investment funnel. All of the funds that we're seeing, track records of those managers, details on those companies, understanding of how that manager creates value and how it benchmarks to other managers. That's one example. And you have to understand that to help understand the inherent risks in your portfolio. Down to the company level, how's it doing? And over the years, investors have had a lot of difficulty, but companies are being started from the bottom up now to standardize data and the connection of systems from the GP side to the LP side, just direct data processing downstream. And that's helping track not only financial metrics at the company level, but also things like sustainability KPIs.
Right, and so what's the level of transparency that investors now have? How quickly can they get the data? How granular can the data actually be?
So it's improving rapidly. There's still difficulty in this asset class for a lot of people to get that level of transparency in their portfolio, but there are certain technologies being built. We're invested in a few of them. So one example would be Daphne, which is digitizing a GP's fund offering and their ongoing performance and standardizing that, taking the lift away from a GP, and then delivering that data downstream to LP reporting systems.
So speaking of innovation, let's talk about a few other things that you were focused on, starting with HL Innovations. What is it? Tell us about that.
HL Innovations is our bigger name for our focus on investing off of our balance sheet in technology companies that are going to change the way this asset class does business, pull us into the digital age of private markets.
We can't talk about innovation without talking about artificial intelligence. So what are some of the efforts that you're focused on to infuse AI into your processes?
Well, with AI, we think having proprietary data is key, and we have a lot of it. So we are building something from the bottom up. We call it Helix by HL. And what this AI tool is going to do is be able to access Hamilton Lane's research and intelligence and speak with our voice to help educate our clients and newer investors in this asset class into private market concepts, and then help them understand what are the available opportunities out there, how to benchmark those, all through a unique interface that is not overly complicated, but opens up understanding and access points to this asset class.
Right, so it's kind of like ChatGPT, but exclusively for private markets data?
Exactly, yep.
And speaking of that, speaking of other tools, benchmarking and also forecasting is quite important for institutional clients and also financial advisors. So I know we have a forecasting tool that's also part of the offering as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I think very uniquely, we've got this data science team internally that we staff, and they are an incredibly bright group of individuals that study 50 years worth of market history. And we've got this great database, cash flows in and out of funds, performance at the company level. And what our forecasting tool can do is it can run scenarios. So what happens in a recession would be one simple example. And every strategy within the private markets reacts differently. This is not just buyout and venture capital anymore. Private credit, real assets, infrastructure, energy investments, Each of these has demonstrated historically unique behaviors in different economic cycles, and we can help an LP navigate the potential returns and cash flow profiles in their portfolio.
So, Griff, my last question for you is really about what progress are we making in terms of adoption of technologies such as yours? Do you see great adoption or great pushback?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is change management. There's a lot of inertia in this industry to just do things the way that historically people did to be successful, but this industry is changing very rapidly underneath us. The ground is shifting, all these newer investors coming in from the private wealth world. If you are not focused on adapting these technologies, increasing transparency, you are unlikely to attract capital from the newer generation of investors. And so there's going to be, in our view, a separation between the winners in this asset class and those that fall behind by not focusing on data and tech.
Right, and that's exactly what I usually say about artificial intelligence. Either adopt it and do it quickly or be left behind. And it sounds like that's really what's happening in the land of alternative investments as well in private markets, is the need to adopt this technology is really, really great. So you are not actually left behind. So Griff, thanks so much for joining us today and for telling us about the innovations at Hamilton Lane, including HL Innovations and lots of other interesting developments and tools. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
And we'd like to hear from you. Send us an email to yourquestion@icapitalnetwork.com and let us know what questions are at the forefront for you and your clients. I'm Anastasia Amoroso, and thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time on Beyond 6040.